Hello everyone. Yes, finally I'm doing another truth lies and hair ties. It's been a while. And can you see? I have a nice background. Yay! I officially moved. It took me 2 weeks. Yeah, I still haven't unpacked everything because it takes a really long time, but at least we've got some plants in the background now. As you can see, my hair today is already done. But I'm actually going to be decorating it in this video. So I've got these lovely long pieces of, I guess you could sort of call them ribbon, but they're more like actual hair ribbon. I got these from a hair shop in London and they were about £1. They're not in like one roll. They're actually already in sections. And I'm not going to start them from the top. I actually just want them to go through the braids that are here. So I've got gold and silver, and then I'm just going to put a few like little hair cuffs in as well. So today we're going to be talking about sponsorships with SeaWorld. And my goodness, I didn't realise how many companies were associated and worked with SeaWorld over the years. I'm not sure when I visited if we did like a holiday package with SeaWorld. I'm not sure. I might have to ask my mum about that. But that seemed to be back then quite a popular thing to do because there were so many airlines that would not only, offer airline tickets, but here are the attractions and here are some tickets to go to SeaWorld. So I don't know if they did like a package where maybe you'd get a little bit of money off if you booked through them, but I'm guessing that's sort of how it happened. And one of the main airlines was British Airways, but they have now decided, well, I think it was a couple of years ago, I think this article I read was in 2019, but they have decided to cut all ties that is associated with animals in captivity. They basically wanted to evolve and take their business not only elsewhere but in a better direction. And so they are now working alongside this international charity called Born Free. And at the time, I didn't actually know much about it, so I thought I'm going to do a little bit of digging. And it sounds amazing. I'll put the website here. As you can see, there's all sorts of ways that you can get involved. You can donate, you can adopt, volunteer, fundraise, set up events, all sorts of bits and pieces. And they work, all over the globe. And they help against like the ivory trade, the rhino horn trade, trophy hunting, and of course, marine captivity. So I think they're quite happy to be working alongside that charity instead of SeaWorld. But I think it was the Sun newspaper and a few non-profit organisations that were obviously for zoos and for aquariums. They actually wrote this. Well, I'll start a bit further down. Your proposed animal welfare strategy will actually limit opportunities for people from all walks of life to experience these valuable connections to the natural world through our associations, zoos and aquariums. Ultimately, it will prevent them from having an opportunity to learn. Well, I think we'll get over it. Of all the things that you perhaps need to learn in life, meeting an orca is probably not one of them. I'm just saying, I think I would be okay and I would survive through this life if I hadn't seen an orca do tricks. So that did make me smile a little bit because I just thought, well, there are also other ways of learning, like if you're really desperate to meet a whale or a dolphin, go to where they live. If that's your ultimate dream, then go and see them. But otherwise, yeah, I think we'll be okay. And of course, another popular one is Virgin Holidays. Of course, the owner, Richard Branson, which by the way, He was in an episode of Baywatch, and I know this because I've started watching all of them again. Oh yeah. I think I watched them when I was like 15, 16. And I thought, oh, let's have a look again and see what they're like. It's a bit like cheese on toast times about 150, but it's all the good cheese that you really want and all the ridiculous slow motion and the emotional music in the background. I'm loving it. And I didn't realise until Richard Branson came on. I was like, oh, he's in an episode. Anyway, moving on. So yes, it sounds like he also wants to go in a different direction, and he wants to support wildlife whale watching, which I think would be amazing. I mean, one day I'd absolutely love to do that, to see them in their own habitat. Wouldn't that just be wonderful? This was an article in the Independent, and SeaWorld did actually have a reply, and here it is. It is disappointing to see Virgin Holidays succumb to pressure from animal activists who mislead and manipulate marine mammal science to advance their agendas. Oh, you mean like helping animals? Yeah, that's a terrible agenda. We really don't want to be associated with that. I'm thinking these companies might be able to make up their own minds. It also might be a bit of, oh, well, that's a bit of an outdated attraction, you know, watching all of these animals doing parlor tricks. So yeah, let's go in a different direction. And the thing is, as I said, you've got SeaWorld here. There are some good things they do. They do conservation work. They help animals. They save animals. Yes. But when you've still got people coming in and it's still like a zoo because you're getting money off them, and you're still doing, you know, tricks and shows and stuff like that, well, I know that they're trying to move away from what they used to do, and the shows are very different. In fact, there was one, I think, was it called Orca Encounter and One Ocean, where there's no music, there's no dancing, it's more of an educational atmosphere.
Says they're changing the killer whale displays at each of their parks, San Diego, San Antonio, and now Orlando, to be less about music, tricks, and dancing.
There's a vein that runs along the inside of each lobe of their tail flukes.
And more about education. Morgan Ricky works with the whales.
We're definitely still going to have the wow behaviors, but what we're doing is we're explaining the why.
But critics argue the whales do not belong in captivity.
I think they still do a few little tricks here and there, but it's nowhere near what it used to be like. But still, what would you choose? A charity like Born Free that is all about the welfare of animals and, you know, hoping that they will live and stay living in the wild, or SeaWorld that are doing a little bit of good, but they've had a bit of a dark history, they've got a black name against them. You know, I know which one I would go for. So with these companies, I don't think it was difficult for them to make this decision. And as I said, these different shows that they're now doing, and they're not the same, and I'm thinking that's great. And I think even in the background, it's completely new, and it looks more like where they would live, or what the ocean might be like if they lived there. And I'm thinking, oh yeah, that's all very good. But ultimately, the tanks are still the same size. Now, there were talks on creating a new tank or, you know, making it bigger, but that's yet to happen. Now, we also know it isn't as easy as just, you know, picking the orcas out and putting them back in the ocean. So over the years, obviously, there have been so many different CEOs that have been in charge, and I think it must be difficult for them. It's a bit like the flat that I've moved into. It was fully furnished, which is great, but there's certain things that I don't need and I don't want, but I can't get rid of because they're part of the flat. So I'm thinking, well, what do I do with them now? So I think some of these people are sort of coming to SeaWorld going, oh my goodness, what are we going to do? We can make this area amazing and wonderful, but we've still got the orcas. What are we going to do with them? Because a lot of them are actually 15 or even younger. And if they're going to survive for another, what, 20, 30 years, in the long term, what are they going to do with them? If they're not doing the same shows, then they're going to have to occupy them some other way. I did see one video here where they've actually got live fish. So they're teaching them to actually hunt for food again for themselves, which I think is wonderful.
Made the commitment to stop its orca breeding program in 2016. And for this last generation of whales, a new environment. Striped bass, where once only orcas lived.
But I'm guessing the same as me, I would like a little bit more of a plan to see what can be done. And perhaps the idea of having a newer tank would come back on the table again, I hope. Because really, I think that's what needs to happen. And I think, was it Keiko, before he was put into the sea pen, they actually made that sanctuary, didn't they? That huge, massive tank where he could actually dive. Well, I'm thinking, that's a good idea. Why don't they do that? Why don't they create that? I know it's not quite as easy, but you do think if they're wanting to actually go in a different direction, in a better direction, then I think this is something that they've really got to sit down and seriously talk about and make happen. They've also decided to come away from the Shamu brand. We know how big that was. So they actually had a ride that was an orca ride, but they called it the Shamu ride. That's now been replaced by a Sesame Street ride, which I thought was quite cool. And I think you used to be able to dine with Shamu, and now you can just dine with an orca. So they are slowly kind of phasing that brand out. But I think when you get to SeaWorld, there's still like a massive orca on the side. I think a few places said you can still see the branding, and obviously in the shops you can still buy little mini Shamus. So I guess it's difficult when you've built up a brand for so many years, trying to get rid of it. It's, you know, it's going to take some time. So I can see what direction they're trying to go into, but I think, I don't know, I feel like maybe they're still not doing quite enough. And it is difficult. As I said, they've got such a dark history and such a bad name against them. It's difficult to see the good that they do. But maybe kind of shut down the animal part. As in, don't sell tickets for the general public to go and view. Rather, have all of the actual workers and marine scientists helping the animals and getting on with their work like that. And Southwest Airlines, they used to have a lot of like specialty holiday packages, and they even had an orca stamped across their plane. And this is quite an interesting one because I didn't realise this, but Snickers, yes, you know, the chocolate bar that we all love. Well, I do anyway. I didn't realise that they had sponsorship with SeaWorld. I read that on an article called Newsbreak, and I thought this was quite funny what they'd written. Snickers made a sweet decision by cutting ties with an amusement park. Like, nice one. They had to make a joke with that, didn't they? Also, AAA, roadside assistance in America. Sounds familiar? Yeah, that's because we've got the AA, but I guess out there they just needed the extra A. They had over 18 protests outside the Manhattan office to cut ties. I managed to find some pictures here. And I thought the blow-up orcas, they were a nice touch. And we haven't finished. There are still more companies. Some of them are American, so I don't really know them. But we've got Mott's, Hyundai Motor, Air Canada, WestJet, JetBlue, STA Travel, Taco Bell, Outdoor.com and Savings.com. So can you imagine how much money they will now be missing out on and promotion from all of these companies that have now decided to cut ties? I did read somewhere that their profit is down by 95%. I'd like to say it was because of all of these companies pulling out, but it's also due to the pandemic. So, I mean, it's still a win, you know, it's still quite good. I'm sure there's lots of other companies as well that were associated with them and they've decided no longer. And I thought the reply that they gave was quite interesting, that they tried to say that all these people out there are being manipulated. And I think there are, when you use the word manipulation, I guess it's worse if the outcome is bad, as in like they're manipulating them to believe in a cult or something. But to choose a charity that's trying to help animals, well, I don't think I'd mind being manipulated then. You know, if it's for something good. So I thought that was quite an interesting word that they had used. You know, they could have said, oh, I can't believe that they had been strongly persuaded to cut ties with us. I think maybe would have sounded slightly better. But I'm not sure what other reply they would have said. So what is the future of SeaWorld? And what is the future of the orcas? I think really that's what I would like to know, and probably all of you would like to know. If they suddenly go in a completely radical direction and it's a lot better, then great, because I think that's what's needed. But who knows if that will actually happen? Stay tuned. I guess we'll find out one day. Anyway, so I don't know if you actually saw how I sort of, I didn't just wrap it round the braid, I actually put it through the middle of the braid, and so then it won't fall down anymore. It should stay in place quite nicely. And then, yeah, I've just put a few of these up, but as you can see up close, it just gives it a nice effect and just looks a little bit different. Now, some people, they do weave it right from the top, but I didn't really feel like doing that today. I just wanted to have it like this. So as you can see, I've got two braids at the back, but I didn't just put them both in a ponytail. I will show you in a second what I actually did with them. I'm very happy to be where I am now. I loved where I lived before, but it was with my landlord, and I just kind of needed a bit of me time now. And I'm close to the of me time now. I'm not going to tell you how old I am, but I think it gets to the point where you think, I need to be on my own. I will actually have a friend moving in with me at some point, but it feels quite amazing. Freedom, a little bit more freedom. As I said, I loved where I lived. My landlord was incredible, absolutely amazing, but it's just not quite the same, is it? Okay, well, that's it for today. Thank you very much for joining me.
Goodbye.